So we're going to start this video with a little bonus section. And if you want, skip ahead to the video, but the bonus section is probably the most interesting thing of the whole video. And we're going to talk about these guys. These are very interesting. They're popping up everywhere now. And we've got them in the middle of nowhere too, which is very interesting. A freaking defibrillator. You know what these things are, right? It's those things you see on freaking emergency room medic shows where they bring people back to life by shocking them and starting their heart. You know what these things are. It restarts your heart in case you have a heart attack. So why the fuck would you put it out in the middle of nowhere? Do you think this is going to save even a single life? Ever? I mean, it's more likely you'd get struck by lightning and have that restart your heart. Think about it. Who even knows how to use these things? Nobody. Only medics. Only people with training. If you use this wrongly, you could probably stop your heart. It's probably more likely these things are going to cause injury than save a life. To use these things properly, you have to have some training, obviously, don't you? You don't just put these probes I don't even know what they look like, to be honest, but I'm sure they've got like some probes, right? Some conductors. And if you put them in the wrong spot, you could probably do damage that way, or probably wouldn't even work. You know, you put them too close together, too far apart. You know, like a taser. If the prongs don't go in at the right distance, it doesn't work. Same with this kind of thing. It's got to be used properly. You got to have training. So why would you put it out in the middle of nowhere? And they're popping up everywhere. They're in, not just out here, they're in parks in the city, in car parks, in freaking malls. I guess the mall makes a bit more sense. There's a bit more chance. You know, let's say someone has a heart attack in the mall, then someone around might have some medical training, so they could use one of these defibrillators to save a life. But aside from that, what about in the middle of a park? You know, who has a heart attack and then instead of calling the ambulance, they think, maybe my local park has a defibrillator. So I don't even need to go to the hospital. I can just freaking save my own life by opening one of these things up. It's crazy. But I'm going to make an episode on this. And yeah, I find it super interesting. What is it about, guys? What's going on? Why are these things up now? At what point in history did we ever see anything like this? We never did. It's crazy. It's like having a dialysis machine in the middle of a park. You know, why not put anticonvulsant medication in the middle of parks? So if someone is having convulsions, then they can save their life if they just happen to be going past this unit. Because it's stupid, that's why. You're better off putting it in a hospital. You're better off putting this money into hospitals, not putting medical equipment in the middle of parks. So anyone can just grab this thing too, by the way. It's not locked or anything. It's not secured. Someone can just come along, grab it, put it in their bag and walk off. Some kid could grab it, play with it and shock themselves to death. It's insanely bizarre. But let me know down below, is this happening in your country too, guys? Because this just started happening in the last year. Just after the jibber-jabbery dibber-dabble that they tried to force on the populace, this came up. So I find the timing extremely interesting. Heart disease, by the way, is the biggest killer in the world and has been for a very long time. Since at least the 50s, probably going even before then. And it's because of what we eat. It's not really to do with much else. It's probably partly to do with the pollution we're surrounded with. The air pollution, water pollution. There's pollution in our food too. But it's not just the toxins added to our food through pesticides and all that. It's the very stuff we eat is bad for us. You know, fried junk. All the shit we eat. Pretty much all of it is really bad for us. So we're dropping like flies. Heart disease kills more people than anything. It kills more people than cancers, AIDS, car accidents, plane accidents, boat accidents, truck accidents, sporting accidents, hiking accidents, everything you can think of combined, and heart disease trumps it all 10 times over. That's how crazy this is. But it's been like this since the 50s, like I said. So why are these defibrillators popping up now in 2022? You know what would make a lot more sense is to have an AED on your EUC and become a mobile paramedic. Sounds dumb, but think about it. We've got plenty of juice, plenty of volts in our EUC to restart a heart. Could probably save 100 lives before this thing gets discharged. We're nimble, we're agile, we can get through the city, through traffic. to an emergency faster than just about anyone. And so why not? Look at our devices. They look like defibrillators. Just have a couple of prongs that you plug in and start saving lives, basically. And it might sound dumb, but what's dumber is to put them in the middle of parks, in the middle of nowhere. And just to emphasize how stupid it is, if you have a heart attack, what are the chances that you happen to have a heart attack right next to one of these things that are randomly situated? Pretty much nothing. And then even if you do, even if your heart attack happens to be right next to one of these things so you can grab it, because, you know, if it's far away, even if it was freaking 30 feet away, if you have a heart attack, you couldn't get there. But if you happen to be right next to it and you have your heart attack, then what are the chances you actually know how to use it? Pretty much nothing as well. So it's like nothing multiplied by nothing. You got more chance being saved by a freaking panting dog that falls on you and does CPR on you by accident. That's got more chance of saving you than one of these things. But let's begin the video. So as you guys know, I do Uber on the wheel. And on this day, I got the biggest order I've ever seen anywhere. You hear mythical stories, old wives' tales of people getting these kind of orders. But today we got one. And obviously it's very far away. So I decided I'm going to take the car. I know. What a disappointment, no. I said I was going to take the 16X, didn't I? So I lied, didn't I? Well, actually I didn't, because I'm taking the 16X in the car as the 6th wheel. Because, you know, cars have 5 wheels, right? And you're thinking, wait, 5? Cars have 4 wheels. Well, you got the steering wheel, don't you? So let's get this on the road and steer our way out to the country. But don't worry, we've got the King song with us, and it's going to keep things interesting. Even just having an EUC there, even if I don't end up riding it, you know, like let's say I take it out on some long, boring trip out to wherever to deliver a hamburger, let's say. If you're just driving a car, it's boring, isn't it? Especially in traffic. But if you've got the EUC there, it gives you hope. And I found that even if I'm working all day, I might not even ride the EUC, I'm just driving around all day. But if the EUC is there, it just gives me that glimmer of hope. And it keeps me moving along. You know, it's kind of crazy, huh? Especially if you do get to ride it. After driving your car, you're going to appreciate getting on that wheel, aren't you? But it's also the other way around, you know what? When I ride my EUC too much, if I do heaps of Uber, and then I'm kind of tired, like, especially if I've got to go on a long trip. Let's say I've been riding all day and then suddenly I get this long trip. Then I appreciate having a car. Do you know what I mean? Like I enjoy it even. I get in this car and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. Luxury. I got 4 wheels and basically a lounge room. A mobile lounge with 4 couches, a stereo system, heating, central climate control. It's like a little bubble of comfort. You know, you appreciate that so much more than your average driver out there who's just driving around like a zombie. Us EUC riders, when we get back into a car, we appreciate it that much more. Isn't it true, guys? Crazy how these EUCs make life more interesting in general. Even if you, whether you're on the EUC or not, you're enjoying life more. I must say, though, I enjoy it more when I'm on the EUC, in traffic especially, just owning traffic. That's the ideal situation in good weather, especially in good weather. So if the weather's bad, then you really appreciate the car again, don't you? But anyway, enough of this jibber jabber. Oh shit, I shouldn't have said jabber. Could get me on some kind of list. But anyway, let's head off to the countryside. And we are going to ride the wheel. Some really nice spots out there, actually. So we've arrived. And that's where we are. 100-kilometer trip. 60 miles. Look at that. Last trip. $101.79. Total for today, $129. Alright, so we delivered it. And now we're out in the middle of nowhere. We got $100 for the delivery, which is alright, I guess, but when you figure you gotta drive all the way back, it's not so good. But at least I'm out here in this nice area, which is awesome. So I figured let's just drive somewhere nice and go for a little EUC ride. Look at the local scenery. And by the way, the phone I'm using is an awesome phone, and I'm recording this whole video using this phone, except for some of that drone footage. But I'll talk a bit more about this phone, and some of you will be interested in it. I'm not like trying to sell phones or anything, but I got a really killer deal on like a flagship model. And if anyone's looking for a phone, I recommend getting this one for sure. But yeah, let's go to this, check out some of this scenery. And we're just going to drive a little ways out. And there's some interesting stuff out here, actually. Some very interesting stuff. So stay tuned. Sure is nice out here. See it here. And this is particularly bizarre because this tram is from the 1920s. And up until quite a while ago, actually, they had one still running in the city, just as like a souvenir type thing or whatever you call it. But then they stopped running that, and now they've just got one stationed in the city that's like a kiosk, so it doesn't move. It's just like they've converted it into a kiosk. But I'm super happy to see this one because I haven't seen one in forever. One that's running, I mean. And if you ask me, these things look awesome. They don't make them like this anymore. When I was a kid, I used to ride one of the antique ones, and I used to like it. I used to enjoy this old school feeling it has. Like, it's different. No idea what those things are. Mini generators to put power back into the grid. No idea. Look at that old school tram though. Maybe they're powering that thing. What do you reckon? Going pretty slow. Makes sense. Look how many of these things there are. Look at all the way down there. Between all those wind generators. Maybe that's how they power this place. What do you reckon? Guys, it actually turns out they're not generators. They're fans. So they're not actually generating power. They're sucking power from those lines to spin those fans, and the reason they put them there is to repel flies. Would you believe it? Crazy world we live in. I'm just joking. I have no idea what these are. If someone knows, drop a comment, because I'd love to know. I don't even know how to look this up. What do I type into Google? Spinning fan thing on power line. Hundreds of spinning fans on the power lines. Technology. Moving on, and as you can see, we got the 16X out of the car, and I knew I wouldn't regret bringing it. It's nice having a smaller wheel, actually. I thought for a second maybe I should bring the Sherman, because it's like the same size, really. Just sits there under the seat. No different, really, in terms of volume. But it's still nice having that smaller wheel. It's lighter, easier to pick up, and the handle's in the middle, so you just pick it up one hand, and it's not awkward. And it gets me to thinking I would really appreciate having an M10-3 or an M10-4 nowadays. I would love having a small wheel like that. I might even sell my 16X to buy an M10-4 because it makes all the difference just being able to pick it up and throw it in like that. And if you had an M10-4, it would just be so convenient. But let's chill now. Let's go sit just here next to where I was riding and see what we see here. The EUC by the sea. Well, it's not really the sea. I don't know what this place is, to be honest. It's got red water. You see that water is red. That's interesting, isn't it? And like I said, I'm recording with my phone, and I'm going to show you just one of the reasons why this phone is so damn awesome. And remember, it's cheap. I'll tell you which phone it is later. But right now, we're zooming in on this other very interesting tram. It looks like a modernized version of the old school tram. But here's what a regular phone would look like when you zoom in from this distance. Pretty blurry, isn't it? Because you're just zooming into the pixels. And that's what your average phone will do, and most cameras in general. But this phone, look what it can do. Look at that, huh? Pretty cool to have this on a phone. It's also got a really good microphone, which I love because that way you don't need to use an external mic. This phone has like a built-in professional mic. It's got really long battery life too. What else does it have? It's basically a flagship. It's got super duper ultra slow-mo, like 900 frames per second or 960. It's crazy. All in a phone. And there's a 16X just chilling. And this place is made of crystals, believe it or not. I want to show you some close-up footage in a sec. But first, let's get some bird footage with this telescopic phone lens. Because these seagulls are going crazy. And it's weird, the seagulls aren't like this closer to the city. They're just chill. They got no attitude or anything. These seagulls are like trying to kick me out of this place. I don't know what's up with them. I don't know if it's the 16X or the... Maybe they don't like my shoes. One thing I know they hate for sure is drones. And by the way, that wasn't a real drone going past. I just put that in editing. I don't like bothering the birds like that. But actually, I don't like risking my drone because they attack it. I haven't had any seagulls come close, although I can tell they want to attack it sometimes. But magpies, I nearly lost my drone. I had to like emergency land the thing, and these magpies were swooping at it, just missing by an inch. And I got it down luckily, but they're about to get it. I don't know what they'll do with it. They did get their hands on it, or their claws. Alright, let's just watch these birds for a bit. Probably just the next couple of minutes. If you want to skip ahead, just skip ahead. After this, I'll show you the ground that's made of crystals. It looks awesome. And these seagulls are pretty cool. It's funny how seagulls just hang around the beach mostly, but you still see them in the city. That's the weird thing. You just see a few just scattered around the city, far away from the beach. I guess not that far, but like at least 10 kilometers. And I wonder, why do they need to be near the beach? Oh, I guess they don't need to, do they? If they can go to the city. They just like the beach. Just how you got like beach people, you know, you got some people that love the beach. Do they just love the beach, so they just go there? Or do they need to be there? I guess they probably need to some extent. I guess I'm ignorant about it. I don't even know what they eat. Do they fish? I don't think so. What do they eat? Sand? But anyway, let's go to the next bit. Maybe they like the salt. Maybe they salt their food. Whatever they do eat, they put salt on top of it. So they don't need to, but they like to, perhaps. Alright, now let's go to the crystal grounds. We're right on top of it, actually. It's just below us. Pretty cool crystals, huh? And this place is just scattered with this stuff. The whole coast, it seems. For kilometers. And some pretty sharp stuff, isn't it? You wouldn't want to run this over with your tire. Even stepping on it barefoot, you'd probably puncture your friggin' foot. Maybe put some slime in your foot before you go out here, so you don't bleed out. Seal up that bleed valve. But seriously, this is an awesome place. And just next door is like a tourist function type of deal. I don't know what you'd call it, but let's just go take a look. And I'll come back again and do this little thing properly one day. There's this trail out this way. See, like... I mean, it's like a walking charter thing on an EUC or a bike. I don't even know if you can go in without paying, to be honest. Let's see what's up here. But as you can see, it's freaking locked. And there's no lock on there, which is weird, isn't it? See, the lock is not done, but it's still locked. That's weird. It's got a lock, which is not on there, but it's still locked. So what is the deal? What do we got here? Well, it says you got to go to some kiosk. From 9 till 4. And grab a key. Free entry for self-guided tours. Oh, so it is free. But I don't know where this kiosk is. Never heard of it. It doesn't say no bikes, so maybe you can. I don't know. Can't see any kiosk around here. We're in the middle of nowhere, to be honest. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's nice though, isn't it? Visitors must be vigilant. What? So why is it not? Oh, here. For access, gate keys are available from the Taco and Taka kiosk, St. Kilda. Okay. Where's this kiosk? I have no idea what that kiosk is, but check it out another time, I reckon. But yeah, you go through that thing there, and then onto the mangrove trail. It's really nice. I haven't been there for ages. I went there so many years ago. And we're going to talk about these guys. These are very interesting. They're popping up everywhere now. And we've got them in the middle of nowhere too, which is very interesting. Alright, clearly that's the start of the video again. We're not going to loop back to the start. As I used to do a lot, didn't I? I used to have that coming up. That went like 8 minutes. And then I'd repeat it all. So you notice I stopped doing that. A lot of people like the coming up sections, but I think I replayed too much. And this section here was actually supposed to be at the end of the video, but I found it interesting, so I just put it at the start. And now I'm not going to replay it again, and it's pretty much the end of the video now. We're out in the middle of nowhere still, and I got a long drive home. And of course, the Sherman could have made it out here, technically. But it's 100 kilometers either way, so you got a 200 kilometer round trip. That means you're going to be conserving battery to get there and back. So it means you got to ride at like 20 kilometers an hour to make that kind of range. So at 200 kilometers total travel distance, 20 kilometers per hour, that's a 10-hour trip. 5 hours each way for one delivery. So not really viable. If you had the $4,800 watt-hour Master Pro, the Master Professional, the professional expert, then maybe you could do a reasonable trip. Maybe not even though. It's a bit far. Actually, I reckon you probably could. You could do it at like 60 kilometers an hour average. But still, you got a 100 kilometer trip each way. 200 kilometers total. How many hours is that? It's still like 3.5 hours. So, yeah, these long trips, to be honest, are made for cars. One wheel, it can do it, but it's kind of pushing the limits of comfort as well. Imagine what your feet are going to feel like after that. So yeah, I just thought I'd touch on that topic again of the 4,800 watt hour wheels of the future. But you know what? Once batteries become lighter, then I'll have no problem with 4,800 watt hours. If I can have that many watt hours and a light EUC, no dramas. Even better. But it's the weight. That's the issue. That's why I don't want so many watt hours, because I don't want extra weight. The Sherman OG, in my opinion, is the ideal weight where it's heavy enough so it doesn't feel like a toy, but it's not so heavy that it loses nimbleness. It still feels very nimble. After a little while, like when you first get it, it might feel heavy, but after just a few weeks, it starts to feel weight. It starts to feel nimble. Whereas the Sherman Max is only a little bit heavier, and I can already say that it's pushed the limits of what the ideal weight should be. the OG is the ideal weight. The max is only 1 more kilo, and it already feels less nimble to me. So, yeah, I just thought I would talk about that again. Anyway, let's end it here. We'll see you back in the next one. Peace.